Recording our time together on our next presentation for day 5 webinar, which is a presentation, PowerPoint presentation. One of my favorite topics, I would say, life-changing, profound topics, and that is the Ayurvedic living wisdom concept of quality. We are a society really obsessed with quantity, right? Quantity meaning how much of something. And Ayurveda definitely is interested in how much of something, because think about Vata, Pitta, and Kapha, doshas. We want to know how much dosha do we have constitutionally, individually, how much dosha of Vata, Pitta, and Kapha is there in the body. That's quantity, how much, right? And which one do we have the most of? So constitutionally, you are primarily a Vata, or constitutionally, you are primarily a Pitta, or constitutionally, you are primarily a Kapha. There is a primary dosha and a secondary dosha that quantitatively we have within us. This quantitative wisdom and this idea of too much, too little, number-wise, is something that most of the West loves, and we always love to go with more quantity, and we live in a world where more is better, right? And X is best, like extra large, right? Or extra this or extra that. The more we have of something, so amazing. Now, in Ayurveda, we're going to look at quantity a different way, and we're also going to introduce you to the idea that quality is really important, because if you have too much of something, the question then before us is of what? What do you have too much of, right? So as we move on, we look at a theory of opposites in the world of quality to find balance, because that is what we're seeking, is balance. So Ayurveda, it is a science of balance for many people, meaning that if we are balanced constitutionally, that I have the right amounts of Vata, Pitta, and Kapha, so that my body can do its thing and it's not out of balance. So if I am in balance, then all is good. But to come to that balance, Ayurveda says we must employ and apply a theory of opposites, that we need to go the other way. You turn it, right? You turn it around, do the opposite. In the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, right, which is a system of philosophy, and in this system of philosophy, one of the ways that the sage, this yogi sage Patanjali, tells us, advises us, he says, hey, you know, you're feeling not so good, you've got these feelings that you recognize are like too much, right? Well, too much and it's overwhelming, then do the opposite, pratipaksha bhavana. So, you know, cross the street and go to the sunny side, basically, if you're sitting in the shadows or if you're sitting in the dark. So Ayurveda, of course, agrees with that sort of theory and applied it well before Patanjali, but this idea of opposites to seek balance is definitely different, because that's not, I would say, a Western thought in medicine. Okay, so we have to ask. The question becomes now, what are we asking, right? Because if we want to find balance and we want to have a theory of opposites, what are we asking? What is there too much of? Sorry that maybe this doesn't show as pretty, but it doesn't matter. Like, it just says, what is there too much of? What do you have too much of? So what are we asking in Ayurveda? Because it is a science of quality and quantity. The first is, what is there too much of? Now, what is there too much of? When I ask you this question, is not quantity, it's quality. What are you being overwhelmed with? Ayurveda teaches us to look at less instead of more, right? The very opposite of where your mind wants to go. Most of the time, every single student I'm ever with will ask or say, oh, do I need to do more of this? No, what do you need to do less of? You already have too much of something, right? we are creatures of accumulation by nature. So we accumulate, and that accumulation drives us out of balance. It is only the Western mind that wants to say there must be something missing. So because something is missing, I need to go get more of something. Because your principle is I'm missing something. There isn't anything you're missing. Nothing. We're missing nothing. And I was just this reminds me, oh my God, how crazy, right? So I like to listen to spiritual conversations in Vedanta and philosophy. Yes, I'm a geek, I'm a nerd. And the topic I just realized that I listened to in today is a little bit about this. And you know, storytelling is how most of the sages work. And so the story was in counting people. But the idea of the whole story was that they thought they were missing, you know, someone. And they weren't. It's because that they were forgetting that what they were not counting was themselves. They were forgetting their own selves. So in the counting process, it's like I'm looking at everything outside, you know, I'm like all the outside, but I'm not, you know, adding myself. So we're always looking on the outside. What do I have too much of? What is there, right? What are we, oh, what, I'm sorry, what do I not have enough of? Like I'm missing something. So they kept thinking they were missing something. I'm missing something. No, you're not missing anything. If you count yourself in, then you realize that all 10 of you are here. No one's missing. You keep thinking 9 are here because you're not counting yourself. But if you count yourself, you realize there are 10 people here, not 9 in this moment. But they forgot to count themselves in, right? So why? Right? Because I'm missing something. I'm missing something. The natural psychology is so much so that we are always thinking we are missing something and we're so empty inside. And so we have to fill it and fill it and fill it and fill it. But there is nothing you need to fill. The problem is we have overly fool ourselves, or we've overly filled ourselves. And damn, if Ayurveda didn't seize the moment on that wisdom, right, psychologically, of course, and take it to heart in the physiological process, meaning in Vata, Pitta, and Kapha, you've got too much of a dosha, right? That's the point. The reason you don't feel well, the reason this is going on, the reason that is going on, whether your hair's falling out or you're cracking, popping joints, or your skin is doing this, or your eyes are doing that, or your nose is doing this, or your metabolism is doing blah blah, or your digestive system is doing boo boo, or all these things, or you know, your colon, your anything, whatever's going on, it's because we have too much of something, and that's because we have too much of some dosha, and that dosha is creating an imbalance, and we need to figure out what to do because we want to have less of something. Okay, so Ayurveda made this kind of easy for us in a way. And I know this seems really wild, but there are only 20 words or 10 pairs of opposites that we need to worry about. And the way the great Charaka, the great physician, the great medic of Ayurveda and Ayurvedic medicine rests upon this very 10 pairs. And I'm going to tell you, like, we look at everything according to these 10 pairs. And when I started to look at the world according to these 10 pairs, well, it literally did change my life. I wasn't joking when I said that before we started the recording. And that's because it really taught me how to make decisions. And oh my goodness, of course, Swami's talk is coming alive to me again, because once again, like one of the causes of our suffering is that we just don't know. We don't know. And because we don't know, which is called avidya, we don't know, then we make wrong decisions, right? Because we don't know. So because you don't know, you make the wrong decision, and then we make the wrong decision. That wrong decision creates suffering. Oh my God, right? And so there's a really kind of cycle there. And so we don't know. So here I'm telling you, Ayurveda tells us here is a way for you to know some things. Know that the entire world can be described by these 10 pairs of opposites. That whether you want to talk to me about your day, meteorology, astrology, food, clothing, people, decor, furniture, sheets, animals. I think I covered it. It will all be able to be described qualitatively, right, through these 10 pairs of opposites, meaning something is either dull or sharp, clear or cloudy, cold or hot, heavy or light, gross or subtle, static or mobile, soft or hard, dense or liquid, smooth or rough, oily or dry. So, for fun, let's talk about what's happening for me personally living in Nosara, Costa Rica. Overall, according to most people, we have a very liquid environment. It's very liquid here, jungly liquid, right? And I'm by the ocean. So there's a lot of the liquid quality in this environment. But in this transitional time, we are definitely not as liquid as usual, right? And if I go to the oily dry sector, I will tell you that it is the dry season for us here, and it's the driest time of the year. So we don't have our normal oily things going on. So I actually have to apply more oil in my body at this time, right? Because there is a dryness. Everything is definitely more sharp, more intense. The sun is more intense. We need more clouds, right? So the sky is more clear, but the clouds are slowly coming in, but it's definitely a clear, intense, sharp. Oh my goodness, the sand gets so hot. It's the hottest time of the year. So you see, I can just go around and really talk to you about what's happening in my current season according to these gunas. I can talk to you about my meal today as part of the spring awake reset. I did some roasted veggies with ghee because I need to eat lightly, right? But at the same time, I need oil, but the roasting of the veggies that I had with some white rice, which is nice and cooling and sweet and grounding. So the rice itself is light, it's cooling, it's cold, it's more subtle, it's not gross. What kind of food is gross? Not disgusting, but gross meaning it's more dense. Well, like a hamburger is more gross, more dense than, for example, rice. Now, meditation is subtle, and asana, yoga asana, will be more gross. Now, if you want to compare yoga asana, for example, to wrestling, then I would say yoga asana is subtle, and wrestling is more gross, right? So it all depends. What are you comparing when you ask me if something more subtle or is something more gross? For example, subtle means that it creeps up on you. You know, psychologically, addiction is subtle. No one goes and says, hey, I really want to be addicted to this thing, whatever that thing is that you're addicted to. Like, yeah, I'm just going to go addict myself, right, to some cocaine. Sounds like a good thing. So no one does that. So subtle means that it's also subtle. It creeps up on you psychologically. Now, food can be definitely subtle as well. You know, it has a subtle effect, not a dense effect. So these qualities can help you determine what do I have too much of, so that we what? Do the opposite. Ayurveda teaches that to come back to balance, live the opposite guna, go the opposite way. So if you are feeling heavy, dull, slow, and sluggish, then we do the opposite. Let's go back. If I feel heavy, dull, slow, dull and slow are the same thing, right? Sluggish. Perhaps I feel stuck, right? Static, stuck. Mobile, windy, movement. No, stuck. So if I feel stuck, then I need to move. If I feel dull and slow, then I need to bring some intensity. I mean, it's almost like not shock therapy, but of that nature, right? That we're not going to get rid of feeling dull and slow by continuing to stay in a soft couch, right? Um, no. Go ahead and sit on some sharp pins, and I bet you won't be sitting for very long. You see the difference? So the qualities that we surround ourselves by very much will affect and determine what is going on from a subtle cosmic layer all the way to food. So if you look at the spring reset, I think about, okay, what's happening for most people in the USA and or Canada, which are what most of the participants here, right? Except, right, we have someone all the way from Denmark coming on in. So same though, kind of idea that you went from cold and dark, very cold, very dark, heavy, liquid because there was snow and damp. For some people more snow, for some people less snow. And everything looked rough, right? Because there was no like leaves on the trees and things like that. And now we are liquefying, everything's liquefying and getting more dense, right? The smooth quality is coming back. Things were a little rough. And things are going, and we're doing more warming things. And from heavy, we're looking for light things, and things were not moving anywhere, so we're doing more mobile things. So you can see that through the reset, what I'm looking for is to get us moving. Prana, pranayama, right? Move the pranic channels, get rid of pranic energy stagnation, move the body, subtle, meditate, lighten up, lighten the mind. Bring more clarity where there was so much cloudiness of the winter season, winter session. And then we're going to do some dry brushing. Why? Because that's going to stimulate circulation. So it's going to get rid of some of that dullness. So dry brushing for me induces some of that sharp quality that we need, right? To invigorate us. So the whole spring reset should, in a way, be doing the opposite of what winter looked like for you. So what are we awakening? What was asleep? Because winter is about dormancy and hibernation and sleeping, good, honestly, closing the eyes, like the gods are sleeping and everything is restoring. And now we're waking up, everyone like waking up, resurrecting, spring, all these holidays. If you look at right now Hindu rituals of Navratri, and from Navratri we go to Akshaya Tritiya, and so many things now come up. So the idea is kind of like in many ways, believe it or not, like our new cycle and new year is starting right about now. It's even why I'm doing the rhythmic online class. It's because in this way of looking at things, if you're following nature, we're kind of resetting now, reactivating. And so we are doing the opposite of what we just came from, because why? We're probably not balanced, because we probably went too much into the winter slumber, and we always need to shake things up. So this is the wisdom of Ayurveda for today, is that we do the opposite. We do the opposite because we are recognizing that we are living in a qualitative world of opposites. To find balance, we ask, what is there too much of? And in the closing wisdom, I leave you with this, which is to surround yourself with that which offers you the qualities you seek. So this is really the true living wisdom, is that surround yourself with the qualities you seek. And that means when you take your walk, when you hang out with people, right, as you're putting on your clothes, your gems, and all these things, right? What are we doing? We are surrounding ourselves with the qualities we're seeking, right? And then if we surround ourselves with the qualities we seek, then we can become those qualities. It's really not that hard, right? If we just add some mindfulness to the living place, right, that we're in. And then we can achieve this harmonious, balanced life. And I swear it all comes from this beautiful Ayurvedic wisdom of just do the opposite. As do the opposite, then we're looking for specific qualities because we are living in a very qualitative world as much as it is quantitative, right? But it is the qualities itself that overwhelm us. We get too much of something that's a quality, and that quality throws us off balance. And so if you want to be happy, then hang out with happy people, right? You want to be joyful, and hang out with some joyful people, right? And I'm not saying go get rid of your miserable, complaining friends. God bless them. So much compassion for all those people. But I have to say, I guess it's why the circle of friends gets smaller as you age, or something like that, because you start to really figure out how important this is. But stop looking outside. As Swamiji reminded me this morning, count yourself in, right? Count yourself in, and you count for something. And if you really count yourself in the big picture, then you realize that nothing is missing, all is there. And we just have to figure out why we keep thinking we have something missing. There's nothing missing. If anything, you have too much. You have too much. And so he said, to live more peacefully, one of the secrets is have less. If you have less, you'll have more peace. So I leave you with that. Namaste.